So, hello to everyone. My name is Risto Kaljurand. I'm a CEO and one of the founders of WineFortune company. I'm glad to be here today with Raimonds Tomsons, who is our lovely advisor in our investment fund, but also more known about as a wine expert from the Barents wine collectors, and also, of course, from the world top title as world best sommelier from the last competition. So for the few opening words for you, Raimonds, how it has been 1.5 years to be with this title. So how has been the journey over that time?
Well, good afternoon, first of all, and thank you for for having me. I wanted to say on this program, but yeah, we can call it on this program. And also, thanks for having me on the project, which is also quite exciting and kind of new experience for me as well to be part of, let's say, wine investment fund and to look how fine wine is developing. Yeah, I mean, the last almost 2 years have been very dynamic, and yeah, after winning this title, of course, I have fulfilled some of my, let's say, greatest ambitions as a professional, as a sommelier, which is great. But also, of course, that gives you plenty of responsibility. And I think if you have such kind of title, your mission is also to, let's say, inspire and motivate other young sommeliers to give back to the industry and to help as much as possible other, let's say, enthusiasts, wine lovers, and sommeliers. And then the second part, of course, is the business side of this wonderful title. It gives you a lot of possibilities to travel, to see the world, of course, to continue to educate yourself, to learn, to meet exciting people. And I think it's up to you how much of these possibilities you would like to, let's say, take the benefit of that, and how many of those you just kindly refuse. And I would like to say that this is probably one of the most challenging part, to say kindly no to some of those projects, because yeah, of course you want to be maybe useful and helpful to as many professionals as possible, be it a winery or maybe another company linked to wine and spirits, or another association, or maybe professional individuals or sommeliers. But of course your time is limited, and besides the time you are dedicating to professional career, you have also family and maybe some hobbies and things you want to do for yourself. So exciting, but also challenging and demanding.
Yeah, I totally understand. Also, when thinking about how to balance your personal life with all the business and all these studies and competitions. So yeah. But when you think about these different countries and wine regions where you have been over this time, more and more, I think, than compared with the previous time before the title. What has been maybe most unexpected outcome or opportunity that has come your way when you have traveled in different regions? What has been like a most powerful expression or exciting memory?
Yeah, I mean, probably some of the more exotic countries to me personally. Maybe for some other people or some of the audience, these might not sound like something very special, but I was for the first time in California last year in November, and there was a kind of global buyer summit in Napa Valley, and for me it was a great experience to meet other, let's say, professionals, to taste plenty of wines, and to travel a little bit around the region, and also to see what are the challenges and maybe problems of the region. and of course to experience, the wonderful hospitality and wines of California, more specifically of Napa Valley. I was in Dominican Republic, so I met the local association, and I think this is a wonderful emerging country. And probably, Singapore would be also a very, very exciting country to visit. The wine scene is very dynamic and on high level. Japan is always great to visit because the wine culture and history of the country itself, and their attitude to things, including wine, is very special and something always I think we can learn from. And then I think still, plenty of traveling through France. It was great to be back in Alsace after, I think, 10 years. I haven't visited the region to see what's happening, what's changing, what kind of new trends are coming up. I visited several times Bordeaux, which is a region regarded as a classic when it comes to wine and wine investment, but still they have their challenges as well, which was interesting to communicate with the winemakers. Corsica was very interesting. For the first time, I was in Corsica to see the landscape and exciting wines and varieties they produce. And Sweden, actually, as a winemaking country. So I've been to Sweden before, but I haven't explored it as a wine producing country. It's still, of course, not considered as a fine wine producing country, but actually my experience was very, very impressive, and it was far beyond my expectations, what I expected to see in Sweden. But that was quite exciting.
Very good overview of so much different kind of areas from the world. So going also a little bit more deeper, taking maybe, as you first mentioned, Napa Valley and US, how you see like a US side that we know US has been quite big importer also for the Bordeaux wines in the history, but now they have like a more and more better like Napa Valley strong Bordeaux grapes wines. Do you see that also US market is more demanding now local wines and not so much maybe Bordeaux and classical historical regions, or how there is movements of the trends?
Well, I don't have specific numbers or statistics, but from what I saw and what I kind of experienced, and also what we see on the market, actually, that first of all, of course, the finest wines are very expensive. Some of them are far more expensive than some of the classified Bordeaux's. As I understand, the main market for them is still, domestic market is very, very important because there is a lot of wealth locally, and everything in Napa is more or less quite expensive, including also, let's say, Sonoma. Starting from land, the working hands, and many other things. So the wines are just, very, very expensive. In my opinion, of course, I sometimes I'm surprised, how there is such market for such wines. But I think they're also feeling some challenges because what we experience, that they're really looking for other markets, and for them, it's not just important about the numbers, but just to be present in a specific market. For example, let's take Latvian market. A lot of well-esteemed and fine Napa producers were really interested to give their wines and allocations to our company, for example. So that means that you can really get those wines. It's just a question of money, and how to buy them and how to sell them in the end of the day. So I would say, biggest challenges are the prices, globally speaking. Of course, for wealthy people, no problem whatsoever. And then, of course, they're also experiencing these climate, let's say, changes and extremes, to cope with maybe higher ripeness, alcohol levels, and so on and so forth. But as we know, Napa is a really technically advanced region, same like Bordeaux. The winemaking is on very high level. So what I experienced are really like polished, elegant, of course, also quite wealthy structured wines, but still with finesse and elegance. But it seems like, yeah, similar like Bordeaux, Napa Valley, and especially those highly esteemed producers and names, they are looking to be present not only on Place de Bordeaux or the domestic market, but they want to, let's say, share their wines among other professional sommeliers. So for them, it's very important, to be present in different kind of locations, markets, and marketplaces.
Yeah, very good overview and the insight straight from the local producers, but also from the opposite side, from the Bordeaux. As you also told, you have traveled quite a lot in there and spoke with the producers. How you see, or what the producers told you about the future prediction? Because right now we are seeing that even like supermarkets in Bordeaux wine is so cheap when we are looking like a local level wine, not as like a highest classification Bordeaux wines, but local level like a Bordeaux wine is like maybe 2-3 euros per bottle only in the shop. How they're seeing the future, because as a state level also giving grants to vinify something else also next to wines. So how the producers are looking in the future?
Yeah, there are several maybe points to mention. Maybe I will just forget something. So let's start straight with the En Primer campaign. So as we saw, the last one was not very successful. Also, this was admitted by the producers themselves. We saw the prices decreased, which is, of course, a positive for us. Positive aspect. I think the prices went down, depending on the producer, from 10 to maybe even 30%. And I think even the next En Primer campaign will be even more challenging, because we see that this vintage is also very humid, a lot of mildew, a lot of rain. One of the smallest vintages in France, in generally speaking, in the last 20-30 years, and also the same case in Bordeaux. So there is not a lot of enthusiasm, maybe also for the next En Primer campaign. And the reason I'm mentioning that, because what I saw and what I felt, that still this Place de Bordeaux market trade system is of course traditional and very important. But I think in the long term, we will see more and more maybe producers looking for direct end consumer markets, be it maybe wine importer or a restaurant. So they will not only sell wines through the Place de Bordeaux, but also they will look for maybe other channels of end consumer. Because the image of Bordeaux has always been like a bit snobbish, these are only very expensive wines, which you can't get directly from the chateau, if you compare with other regions, let's say Burgundy as an example. Also, we see a lot of kind of eno-tourism in Bordeaux. So they're opening the doors, even the biggest names, they're welcoming people. They want to be more kind of connected with the end consumer, not only with professionals, but also people actually who buy the wines, so private clients and so on and so forth. So this is also happening, which is, I mean, very positive, because Bordeaux is really seeking and looking for this kind of direct contact with end consumer to open their doors. And I always say I never experienced such great lunches and dinners and hospitality as I experienced in Bordeaux in the last few years. And also, I visited also some maybe lesser known, lesser maybe prestige or demand appellations, like Haut-Médoc or Molly-en-Médoc, Listrac, Fronsac, and maybe the satellites of Saint-Emilion and Lalande de Pomerol. And you can see really high quality, more approachable prices producers, which are gaining foundation, which are gaining, let's say, reputation and also demand. So Bordeaux definitely is not only about classified gross and also, price, but also you can, if you look carefully, you can find some very good value for money producers as well, where the quality is there. I'm not talking maybe about, Bordeaux wines for 3, 4, 5 euro. Having said that, probably you can find some quality there as well. But when it comes, to this question that these maybe cheaper wines are offered from the government to be ripped out, I think 4,000 euros per hectare. But then I heard that it costs you 2,000 per hectare to do that technically. So you are left with 2,000 euros, and then of course you need to do something with the land, to plant maybe other agricultural, let's say, products. I don't know. I'm not a specialist in that, but it seems like not the best solution. So we will see how Bordeaux will develop. Of course, globally there is overproduction of wines, and it seems like in Bordeaux as well. So the acreage will become less. Hopefully, the quality will raise, and the prices will stay, let's say, reasonable.
Okay, so from the Bordeaux side, could tell maybe then also same as a Burgundy, that when there was a little bit collapse of the top Burgundy wine prices, and people are started to look more and more like a cheaper wines, also as a village level, also a Premier Cru level, to look as the same value in the quality. Then now maybe in the Bordeaux side, they're looking more and more into also the lower level. And as you told, you saw also very good quality producers, not so highly classified in the selection. So it's an interesting trend to look how the future impacts then from the consumer trends, also what we can maybe talk about later, and so on, how it affects all the industry side. But from the emerging regions, as you told, also example Sweden, do you see maybe Sweden or some other regions which could be like next rising stars in the wine industry, maybe not after 5 years, maybe after 10 years?
Yeah, of course, it's a prediction, and it's hard to predict those things. But I think you can still find. It will be influenced definitely by price. So depending on the classic regions like Champagne, Burgundy, Bordeaux, maybe Piedmont, Tuscany, and other classic regions also outside Europe. It really will depend on the market and on the prices. Because even coming slightly back to Bordeaux, we can see that you can gain excellent older vintages of Bordeaux, which can be cheaper than the latest 10 premier vintages and the last maybe 5-10 vintages. And that means that probably that the warehouses are stocked with too many wines. They need to generate maybe some cash flow. So they need to, let's say, attract some money and to sell those stocks. This is kind of might be one of the logical explanation. But coming back, I think if we look at France, which always has been, the center of fine wine, and when you think about investing in wine, but I really believe in the Loire Valley, especially with the climate change. I think excellent value for money, if you ask me, you can find in Muscadet. It's your great alternative to cooler vintage or climate, let's say, Chablis style of Burgundy, because from great producers you can get some cru Muscadet in retail. You can get some of the best wines for 25-30 euro, and they will age gracefully and they will give you a lot of pleasure. So Loire Valley with Muscadet. Chenin Blanc, for me, is a great variety to really look for. Great acidity, can still retain acidity in warmer conditions. Cabernet Franc as a grape has been in trend for the last years globally. So, and I think Loire Valley produces excellent style of Cabernet Franc, which could be very appealing. Of course, you know, some appellations of Languedoc-Roussillon. Alsace is a great value. I mean, if you're looking for Grand Cru wine under 20 euro, Alsace, you know, you can buy some excellent Grand Cru Riesling or Pinot Gris under 20 euro there in retail shop. It's absolutely, you know, nonsense at some point if you think about that. So yeah, Alsace definitely. And then, I mean, Rhone Valley, you know, still it's considered maybe not the most popular producing region, but I can see also in our shop that people are more and more interested. And then I think definitely Austria with its white wine specifically, Riesling from Germany, great value for money still, you know, and you will get white wines which will age 10, 15, 20 and more years. And of course, many other regions, but, you know, I was in Slovenia, for example, and I tasted excellent wines from Ribolla as a grape variety. Will it be like up and coming, and will it find a commercial appeal among wine lovers and other consumers? Very difficult to say, but I mean, the wine and stylistically, it has all the characteristics to be among fine wines. Piedmont is still, I think, and Nebbiolo-based wines are excellent value for money. You know, you can get some of the best Barolos, except maybe some names, still cheaper, you know, than some names from Burgundy, and not even, I'm not speaking even about Grand Cru. Paso Robles from California, actually, it's not only me saying, but a lot of people see that, you know, this part of California has great value for money. We are also considering as a company, we already found the producer, you know, to start to import and represent those wines, to represent California, apart from Sonoma, Napa, and other maybe cult regions. Portugal, Spain, you know, the kind of modern Spain with northwestern part, mountain vineyards in Aragon, unfortified wines from Jerez. And Portugal has excellent value for money, you know, and diversity of local grape varieties and regions. Mm-hmm. Just to name a few, but there are, you know, plenty of other regions probably I haven't mentioned.
Yeah, sure. And when I take also a little bit conclusion of the different grapes and the regions also, then I can see that there's more white grapes and maybe taking also from this questions, following question, that how you see like consumer preferences, that there is much of talk about that white wines are more and more preferable also when they're looking as a most strongest and boldest ones to store as a long term. So how you see like a consumer preferences that when the customer will look the wines to keep in cellar maybe 10 years or 15 years, do you see that there is more and more preferences to look now white wines and not so much anymore red wines, or how you see that the movements on the preferences?
Well, when it comes to enjoying wine, and by enjoying, I mean not maybe buying wine for a financial return or maybe keeping, you know, too long. I would definitely agree, and I can see that people are drinking more white wines. But this is also linked to specific season. You know, now when we have fall and winter is on the doorsteps, people are looking more for red wines. And I think still, you know, when it comes to buying wines, for example, tomorrow I will visit a private client. He bought 7 wines for his cellar. 2 of them are white and 5 of them are red. So maybe that also, as an example, explains that still, if people want to keep wine for long term, I think somehow they believe that red wine should be the prime choice. But of course, you know, fine white Burgundy probably is the most popular and maybe some Rieslings when it comes to white wines. But I think regarding consumer trends, still we see classics: Champagne, Bordeaux, Burgundy, plenty of Italy, plenty of Tuscany, Piedmont, maybe even more Tuscany. Spain is coming up slowly, with wines from Ribera del Duero, of course Rioja as a benchmark classic, but also wines from Priorat are gaining also slowly, step by step, status. And then still Champagne is very, very popular. And then, of course, people are looking for alternatives, especially when it comes to more affordable price. Yeah. And then it really depends if these are really classic, maybe conservative clients, or maybe clients who are more open-minded. But also another trend which I have observed is maybe a trend which we wine people don't like, is less alcohol. Some of my private clients who used to be regular buyers for some very good wines, for some reasons they have decided to drink less, and some of them have decided to not drink anymore. So this non-alcohol, low alcohol trend we can see also slowly, step by step, in Latvia and Baltics, I believe. There are more and more options, and people are asking for non-alcoholic wine. So that means that, yeah, we have to respect this type of, wines as well, apart, from the classics, from up and coming, maybe value for money. So we need to keep in our mind that there are plenty of end consumers who are drinking less and who are demanding maybe something non-alcoholic or low alcoholic.
Yeah, I also wanted to ask about the same questions, that how we could manage this trend where we're seeing that there is more and more asking about in also exhibitions. We are seeing more stands who are offering like a trendy wines from the lower alcohol. It's okay, but even as a zero alcohol, is it still then wine or not? Because it still gives one of the key important terms for the wine, not just giving you like a dizzy head, but giving actually a component of the wine, because otherwise the taste and the body and everything will be much different when it's like a zero alcohol. So yeah.
Yeah, sure. I mean, and alcohol is not only about getting I don't want to say drunk, but
Dizzy.
Dizzy. Alcohol is still alcohol, but alcohol also gives you texture, and it enhances flavor, and gives just this very pleasant, attractive flavor to any wine. When it's well balanced, when it's not too much, it just gives so much more pleasure and concentration and taste as wine. So I mean, I really would love to prefer to see more maybe low alcohol wines. And again, a couple of days back we had a Riesling tasting, and I tasted some Cabinet, some Spätlese wines with excellent balance between acidity, sweetness. They were not like too sweet, but the alcohol was 7, 7.5, and 8. So this is still low alcohol, but the wine tastes excellent. But of course, it's a question if our guests are not drinking at all, or just want to drink something with less alcohol.
But also from the menu side, when we talk about like a wine and food pairing, we are seeing the more demand also like a plant-based menus and more like a vegan-friendly food and so on. So the pairing of the wines probably is also a little bit different when we think about like a strong meat-based dishes with the strong red wines. Then it's not as the same with the plant-based menus. Do you see also there more like a changing trend when the new sommeliers are studying how to pair different menus and the wines together. To see that there is also like a movement to the some other wines, and some wines are more maybe unselected to the list based on the restaurant menus.
Yes, partly yes, but I believe you can find any style or any geographic origin style of wine to pair with a vegan or pescatarian or vegetarian or even seafood menu. It's just a question of style and producer, and it might be red wine, but it might be an elegant red wine with less tannins to go with fish. But we can see already for some years that also we see this trend in fine dining restaurants, and not only, to offer to our guests a non-alcoholic high quality pairing, where the prices can be very close to the same price how much they charge for a wine pairing, because it's not only about non-alcoholic, let's say, refreshing beverages, but homemade non-alcoholic pairings, cocktails, home brewed, not only kombuchas, but other very interesting beverages. And yes, people, when they go out, if they don't drink, they want to have a high quality non-alcoholic pairing. So also including in the pairing other wines, beyond wine. So sake, beer, cider is gaining also popularity. So there are plenty of other, let's say, alcoholic and also non-alcoholic beverages out there. So this is one of those trends. And then also, I think globally, what we can see, in generally speaking, we can see that the trend is towards less oak, less extraction, more elegant wines, more pristine wines, if you will, with less tannins. And we can see in many classic regions like, Bordeaux, Piedmont, also Napa Valley, you can taste wines from the recent vintages of 21, even 22. And you can see that they are polished. That means that in the winery, they are aiming to produce wines which are not necessarily released on market, and then you have to wait 10, 15 years, as it used to be, for example. Let's take Bordeaux.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, there's this question: what do you expect from your Bordeaux? Vitality, freshness, fruitiness, versus, of course, something mature and evolved with a nice bottle bouquet. And of course, if you have a finely mature Bordeaux, it's something really enjoyable and maybe one of the greatest wines. But it's a personal preference. But yeah, I mean, we can see less extraction, keeping the alcohol managed, let's say, balanced, if the climate allows, of course. Less oak, definitely. Less new oak, I would like to say. People are experimenting with new kind of vessels, starting from glass, terracotta, clay, cement, and so on and so forth. But it slightly contradicts with maybe some of the results I see in some maybe wine tastings and competitions, because there still, what I see, not always, but still you can see that the most points are gained by wines which are richer, full-bodied, more extracted, maybe more appealing for not professionals, but wine lovers or people with less experience in wine, who are looking for more flavor, more taste, more concentration. So yeah, it's a bit kind of, there are trends, but then there is reality, and that just makes me think, maybe when you taste plenty wines in a competition, you pay more attention and you tend to give more points to those wines which leave more impression on the palate to you, not the more elegant ones. But maybe it's just my theory or way of thinking. So yeah.
Maybe it's also this key point that when you think about like elegant Burgundy wines, then you need the time to get the actual power out of this wine. And when you are also in a competition, maybe more like a fresher vintages, fresher wines, and there is already body and more bolder, then it's like more expressions to show. But these wines, which are like very elegant and needs more time, also people are not so patient to wait as these years, as you also spoke with producers, and also I just traveled also in Piemonte regions quite recently. Then you also see like difference that producers are trying to produce more and more ready wines in the younger age to raise more demand, also like Barolo side for the younger generations with the fresher vintages. Because in Estonia, maybe I think it's quite same in Latvia side that when people are talking about Barolos, then they usually think about like aged like a strong Barolos, at least 10 plus years vintages. But in the Italy, they're speaking with the producers, then they're telling that most of them told that they want wine to offer already after 5-6 years to start drinking also with the food. So there is like a difference also in the culture of enjoying these wines in the local regions and other side of the Europe.
Definitely, yeah. As I said, I think also globally the world has changed. We're not, let's say, we're living in turbulent times. Also geopolitically looking what's happening, and I think people just are happy that we are alive. We can still travel and enjoy life, eat well, drink well, and why to wait? Maybe I'm a little bit overreacting, but myself, I don't collect wines, at least at this moment. I take the advantage of open a great bottle if I want. Some people might say it's wrong, maybe, but if I want to drink a nice wine, I will do it. But of course, there still are people who are collecting wines and investing in wine, which is totally fine and which should be done like that. But also, if you think about the new generation, people who are in between, let's say, 20 and maybe 30 years, I also can see that they are, first of all, very open-minded. They're willing to try new things. Of course, there are maybe a group of people who are more linked to this low intervention natural wine movement as well, which is fine as well. But I mean, it's complicated to imagine that a young generation winemaker will come into our shop and ask for a nice mature Bordeaux. Maybe he will do that, but it's more like they are saying like, hi, do you have something exciting and interesting for me? But then of course there are still people who are buying and who can afford to buy maybe more expensive wines. Of course, usually these are people over 30 years and sometimes even over 40 years. But not only, and you can find also plenty of good, we can call them fine wines below 50 euro, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Because when we are looking now also more to our last part of discussion, our investment fund side, then we have also discovered quite good possibilities under the 50 euros. But yeah, definitely less smaller part, because most of the wines are still like 200, 300 at least, and up to that. But yeah, definitely. As you already described about new areas, new trends about the regions, what we're looking into, as it described Loire Valley and some others, definitely have to look more into the white wines and also the new wines from the brands and the producers based also. So when we think about maybe climate side, because we talked already consumer preferences and what has been the changes, but definitely quite much is dictated about the geographical and climate side, because when there is some regions, maybe after 10 years, when the production is quite impossible or quite difficult to get this amount of the wines that we are expecting in right now, then how you see which grapes and in which regions could be like most problematic when we look how the trends are changing. As you told, also some podcasts episodes before, we talked with our Estonian sommelier Kevin. Then he told that maybe Pinot Noir in Champagne could be a little bit difficult in the future, because when you look as the climate changes and the possibilities of how everything changes in the Central Europe. But how you see which grapes or which regions could be like most problematic in the future perspective?
Yeah, it's a very complicated topic.
Yeah, definitely.
And not an easy, and by far no correct answers here. But so from some of my trips and maybe experiences when talking to different kind of people and winemakers, the biggest challenges, of course, are maybe, of course, it could be temperature and dryness and lack of water. So if you think from this kind of side, then of course the southern hemisphere and the southern regions, be it France, Italy, or Spain, or other regions, will have problems to get access to water in the future. So this is one of the main problems in these areas. Second is the weather extremes, and a clear example, I think, is the last vintage, where we see. I think I was 5-6 times in Bordeaux, and I was already laughing with my colleagues in Bordeaux. Every time I went there during the last year, it was raining, and and then they were calling me a few days back. Oh, we have 30 degrees in Bordeaux with sun. I said, I don't believe you, but of course, I mean, I believe, but it was a joke. So yeah, humidity, rain, hailstorm, hot, then frosts. So these are problems which winemakers have to accept and adapt. And I think it will be all about adaptation. And it depends really to whom you talk, because I have observed that if you talk to really skilled winemakers with knowledge and experience, some of those are telling you can adapt, you can change in the vineyard, and I'm talking about mostly about what you do and how you do in the vineyard. There are plenty of things you can do, starting from of course, location of the vineyard, altitude, orientation of the rows, working the soil or not working the soil, less kind of how you call that, plowing, cover crops. So plenty of things. I'm not a winemaker, but these are just some basic things you can apply in long term. PV grapes, which are more resistant to weather extremes, humidity, fungus, and things like that. Other grape varieties, we saw that there are implemented new varieties in Bordeaux, in Champagne, and in other regions as well. Most of the winemakers I've been talking to, they say it's done too fast. I mean, of course, some will maybe experiment and plan, but a lot of winemakers say it's maybe not the best way to do it very fast. You need to experiment and really think about that. And then when it comes to certain grape varieties, of course, not going into detail, but if you think about varieties which are maybe having more sugar, which are having less acidity, could be more problematic, but I mean, let's take as an example Grenache, red Grenache. It's a variety which is lower in acidity. In generally speaking, it's more prone to oxidation, It gains high sugar, high alcohol. The fruit profile usually is quite ripe. But then, for example, let's take a winemaker like Fernando Morra in region called Aragon. Well, and the appellation is called Val de Jallon. It's a mountain garnacha, so they plant vineyards between 400 and 1,000 meters above the sea level on poor limestone-based soils, and not only from old wines with well-established root systems, bush wines. And when you taste those wines, you think you have something similar to Pinot Noir in your glass. So again, this is why I don't want to mention a specific grape, because you can have maybe extracted ripe Grenache-based wine, maybe from southern France, or maybe I don't know, Navarra or Campo de Borja or Calatayud. And there's nothing bad about that wine. There's definitely a consumer for that. And then you can have something crystalline, 12.5, 13% alcohol, very pale color, bright, fresh garnacha from winemaker like Fernando Morra and his project, Bodegas Frontonio. So these are kind of the main things, adaptation. And as we know, the wine as a plant is very strong. It can survive, in different kind of environments. Of course, it loves the Mediterranean basin. It can still, produce excellent crops in warmer climates. But of course, there's a certain kind of border and extremes maybe where it becomes more challenging. And then I think all these small important details in the vineyard, in the winery, the experience and craft of winemakers comes into play. Because we can't control the nature, can't we? So the only thing is adaptation and thinking in advance.
But from the collector side, it's we can still say, I think, that yes, grape can adapt in a circumstances, and we can also adapt how we manage all the viticulture. But quite probably could say that maybe these wines, what we are producing right now, example like a classical regions, Burgundy and Champagne, maybe are not the same after 10 years when we produce these wines from these regions. And as the wine lovers who have used to be already with these tastes as elegant feminine Burgundy wines and maybe like a classical Champagne taste, maybe after 10 years they are looking some totally other parameters in these aromas and the tastes. And because of that, it's also, from my point of view, a little bit like a paradox that when we have seen that the prices have went down after 2022, end of 2022, and Asia has quite stocked up all the warehouses right now as a Burgundy and Champagne, then it's still like in a time when should collect these amazing wines, because when the prices are down, when the quality is not so much changed yet, but we don't know what future happens after 10 years.
Yeah, it's a gamble, but what definitely we can expect, I think, the less maybe prestige vineyards of any fine wine region. Let's take Burgundy. Those, for example, who had maybe more northern exposures, cooler, let's say, vineyards, which in the past did not had the right ripeness, to stand against the great vineyards, who had better maybe exposure. And I'm speaking about some Premier Cru and maybe even some Grand Crus. I think in long term we will see more up and coming, maybe historically less favorite Premier Cru vineyards, which will gain reputation in long term because the climate is changing and they can produce better and better quality grapes. So definitely we will see new emerging maybe Premier Cru vineyards, and maybe not only other parts of these classic regions. I still believe that Chablis is still great value, except maybe a couple of producers which demand high prices. But Chablis still is considered a very cool climate region. Still, you can buy Grand Cru Chablis if you're very lucky under €100, and it's an excellent value for money. And in long term, I think they will produce better and better wines if they will not face some really terrible weather extremes. But this is a region I would looking for. Also Muscadet, as I said, Loire Valley, because it's still quite cool, and northernly located vineyard. Alsace could be interesting, especially for Pinot Noir, because they have now 3 Grand Cru vineyards for Pinot Noir officially allowed, and I think the climate will benefit them as well for Pinot Noir production. I mean, what Kevin said, maybe there will be more Coteaux Champenoise Pinot Noir. I don't know, maybe, or even Chardonnay. So yeah, I think definitely we can expect some trends and changes. Is it the best moment to buy Burgundy because the prices will go up in long term? I would be more the believer that we should wait, because the prices are still too high. I mean, people don't buy them anymore as they used to do. I don't buy them as I used to do. But even people who could afford are now maybe buying less. Of course, you cannot put all producers in one basket. There are producers who are trying to retain the same prices or maybe slight raise, like 5%, which is fine. Logistics are becoming more expensive. Bottles are becoming more expensive, and all the administrative expenses. I understand that. But when you see some producers maybe, raising prices 30, 50%, I'm not buying that. Sorry. With all my respect, I'm not buying that. Yes, there are people who are buying labels and who will afford to buy. And because of such kind of clients and secondary market and the limited production of those wines, still the secondary market prices are very, very high. So we'll see. As you mentioned, we can see already the trend that prices are slowly starting to decrease, maybe, if we can say so. Not for all producers, of course, but there is a kind of trend, and more people are talking about that. So we will see. And of course, you need to find the right sweet spot moment when to buy, with a prediction in the future that the prices will raise again. And as I said, it's a gamble, it's a casino.
It's exactly, and because of that, it's good that we combine like a technical analysis side that we are making in WineFortune, and your like a fundamental skills in the advisory board. What has been like a trends and the movements of the preferences, changes, the consumer, climate side, and I think it's putting together as also like a best option of the investment fund selection in the long term. And maybe when I'm wrapping together now our discussion, then I could point out in a summary that we definitely can look now also in the future more like a new regions. As you told, Loire Valley could be more promising. Also like Austria and Germany side, white wines and Alsace, and also maybe new regions, Slovenia, Ribolla, or of course already well-known Grand Cru Chablis and so on. So yeah, it's very good that we can discuss in WineFortune about these possibilities and look also the new options. So yeah, maybe in a conclusion, what you could tell for the new people who are discovering this world. Is it maybe like an investment fund, the easiest solutions, or they should start with the wine list, put together collection? How you see for the new people in this world?
Yeah, I think it really, you need to ask yourself, what is the main purpose, when you want to start, or when you want to start to create a collection? Is it for your pleasure, enjoyment? Is it for your maybe children, for your family, to keep it in long term? Of course, if we speak about financial return, or to consider wine as an alternative investment tool, you should go to professionals. There are plenty of ways to do, and I think my WineFortune, of course, is the closest to the Baltic market. Where you can join, and then let us professionals, to do all the statistics and looking for those wines, and the hard type of job. And then for you just need to understand how much would you like to, let's say, invest in those wines, and there are plenty of other, let's say, wine investment tools and platforms out there. But of course, if you want to invest in wine with a financial return, you need to have a certain experience, knowledge. You need to travel, you need to taste, and this only can be done with time and with experience. So going to a professional, trusting professional, is, I think, the essence and the key when starting to make a collection. And then when it comes to pleasure, of course, my suggestion is always to buy wines which are, reasonably priced. We're speaking about those regions which we already mentioned, because when it comes to wine investment, still the classics come into play. And as we know, if a wine should have an attractive, let's say, profile to be a collectible, it should have, let's say, recognition, some reputation, history, points, yeah, and commercial appeal in the market, yeah. And there might be plenty of maybe great wines in the Loire Valley, but as far as they will not have, let's say, recognition from professionals or wine critics, still they will be, complicated as a wine which will have big potential to bring some financial return. Maybe, we don't know. If we would be with our knowledge and experience back in early 90s, I mean, it would be a different kind of situation. So and it's all about luck and risk as well, so that's why it's very reasonable to buy maybe wines reasonably priced, wines which you can keep, Riesling, Chenin, Muscadet, Austrian white wines, and plenty other. And then you can maybe keep one box to enjoy, and maybe one box somewhere in the back, and see what happens. This is also an option how to do.
Exactly, well said. And because of that, we also updated our wine list product. Now people don't have to make like a personal collections for one certain wine or few wines for themselves. So when you're looking investing into yourself for the future, then you can buy shares, like a monthly recurrent payment from the wine list. And in the future, customer can choose which wines from this list would like to exchange. So maybe you are for the champagne lover after 20 years, but maybe you are red Spain wines or some others. So from the long list, you can make a decision in the future. So you don't have to put already decisions now for the 20, 30 years to the future, which wine you would like to take it out. And as Raimonds told, for the financial side, investment fund was made by us in the reason that there would be like a classical investment product also in the market. So you don't, when you are not even like a wine enthusiast, but you would like to diversify with some new asset class, where is some real asset also, not just only like a paper-based asset, then you can be sure that all the investments are backed with the wines. We have like a strong partnership with Belgium Warehouse, which is is used also by the LiveX as a biggest B2B marketplace worldwide. So we have like a minimum logistical and transportation costs, and all transactions in the future by a worldwide London Wine Exchange marketplace can be happen through our platform. So yeah, feel free to explore our WineFortune platform. Thank you, Raimonds, for this very good discussion about our trends, the moment and changes in the world. So definitely we will make some webinar in future too. So thank you, Raimonds, and thank you all the followers who watched us in this YouTube live.
Thank you for having me.